flugelhorn and a 200-watt tube amplifier. Wow. And he would wake us up by playing Wagner on a Sunday morning where you could hear it in every nook and cranny in the house. So my earliest remembrance of music was the Herbie Mann Alatunji jazz album called Herbie Mann plus Four Flutes. One of the most influential pieces of music for me. It's just jazz. So I grew up in a house that listened to jazz, some blues, a lot of classical music, and opera. To this day, I still don't get opera. It pains me to listen to people caterwaul like that. I don't understand it. It's completely my shortcomings. So I would suggest, even by the time I woke up and said, wow, I'm on this earth, so say somewhere between 4th and 5th grade, I'm going to admit it, I was already the odd duck. I didn't fit in, because even in 5th grade, you weren't listening to Kiss. I didn't know who the Who were. I didn't listen to rock and roll. Certainly it was the Beatles. Right, we listened to the Beatles. I had at some point the triple Woodstock album, which was big to me. A lot of Woody Guthrie, a huge amount of Pete Seeger and Arlo Guthrie. I had those albums. Those were the first records I bought. Wow,
these are your own records.
What's amazing though is like frequently the way I got through a lot of stuff, it would be like I was listening to you would get like Led Zeppelin, and as a result, you discover Muddy Waters going backwards.
No, I did it the other way. I knew who Howlin' Wolf was before I knew.
You knew they were ripping them off before you heard them, as opposed to the other way.
Good God, you guys didn't go through a point where you had Disney records and stuff? Like I had Disney records, so I was listening literally to, the Daniel Boone theme or the Davy Crockett theme was rocking to me. Like it was kind of souped up.
No, and I don't. Maybe the Woody Guthrie Grow Big Songbook. He's got those kid songs that he did. But no, I got thrown into grown-up music at a very young age.
Yeah, my dad was actually a big Charlie Parker fan, which I found out much later. He didn't play it, like he didn't own any Charlie Parker, but he went pop very quickly. So there was a lot of like Irv Albert, if you want to brand,
sure,
and Al Hurt,
yep,
and so it was kind of like, and then he had his Italian records with Jerry Vale and.
No, but I never experienced that. And let
Doug, how old were you when you started playing guitar?
When I was 4 or 5, I used to cry that I wanted guitar lessons, but my parents didn't make enough money to get me guitar lessons. When I was around 8 and a half, my dad brought home like a broken guitar he found in the garbage, and I walked around the house with it for like a year. And then they finally capitulated. And now that I'm an adult and I understand how expensive it is to have children, I can't imagine how much money they spent on my guitar career when I recently found out. I thought my parents really loved scrambled eggs and spaghetti for dinner. And I was talking to my sister, and it turns out that for quite a stretch of years, my parents didn't have enough money to buy meat. And so that was I got my head ripped right out of my ass as to what was going on when I was little. So I begged them. I pleaded with them for guitar lessons. We went to Oakland Music, right up the road from the Oakland bowling alley. And my dad said, my kid wants to play the guitar. What should we get him? And I think they decided I was going to take classical guitar lessons first.
Nice.
So
of course,
from 8, 9, 10, 11, I played classical guitar. I still have my classical guitar. My dad would punch me in the back of the head during lessons because I couldn't stop biting my nails. And if you wanted to play like Andre Segovia, you had to grow your fingernails. And I'm so obsessively biting at my nails that it would just never work out. And then he had professional, I don't remember anybody's name, but he had professional New York trained classical guitar players come to the house and give me lessons. And then at some point I begged for an...
Did you show promise like right off the bat, Doug?
Well,
I mean...
I'll give you the story, though if we're all sitting around drunk, I don't want to get my balls busted for telling you this.
You were on
honest,
Wonderama.
There's no promises.
You appeared on Wonderama as a child prodigy.
No. So my
Segovia.
dad bought this little portable cassette machine. And when he would visit my friend, he had a friend from when he was about 14, 15 named Lenny. And we would drive out to Queens on a Saturday and sit in Lenny's house in Queens. And they would talk about politics. My dad was a communist at that point. He'd lost his Communist Party membership card before he got drafted. So real leftist politics. They talk about opera music. But what my dad would do is he would secretly hit record on this little cassette machine.
He was a podcaster ahead of his time.
He would record.
Total communist, isn't he?
Yeah, he would record the conversations. So years later, and I don't know if I could find the cassette. There's a cassette. I was about 11. Lenny's son was a professional jazz musician named Joel Perry, who recently passed away, sadly. And on the cassette, you could hear my dad saying, yes, we have such and such a guy coming in the house. Doug shows amazing promise. You know, I think there's something here with this classical guitar. He gets it. And I could see him going with this in the right direction.
Wow.
So, but I don't find that out until much later. So when at some point I bitched and moaned I needed an electric guitar, so I had to have been about 13 or 14. We went to Oakland Music and he bought me a Les Paul copy by a company called Zap. And
I hope you still have that guitar.
No, I wish.
Let's put this in context. Right now we're like late 70s.
So I was born in 64. So this is 74, 75. So around 76, I'm getting guitar lessons. I'm starting to be a pain in the ass. And I mentioned to the old man, as we referred to him, that some friends were playing stickball and I didn't want to practice because I had to practice 45 minutes to an hour every day.
Get it.
And he said, that's fine, you know, if you want to do that. And then he smashed everything musical in my room and said, we will never talk about music and guitar playing again. The only things he didn't break was my acoustic guitar, the classical guitar, and my Zap guitar, because I kept it under the bed in a case. And I not that he remembered that he was being an asshole at the time, but we really never talked about guitar playing ever again. But now we cycle back or loop back to this thing about music. We still listen to music together, and there'd be music I'd play for him. And there were two occasions that I played music for him where he's like, wow, that is really great. The first time was one of the after he died releases by Jimi Hendrix, an album called 9 to the Universe, which is all instrumental. It's not in print anymore. It's all over YouTube. It's him with a bunch of jazz musicians or just doing blues and jazz. And he listened to the entire album. And and to me, this was like a badge of honor. He said, that Jimi Hendrix, that's great stuff. And I felt like I had earned, like I found a diamond for him. And the only other time he listened to music that we talked about it and he's like, wow, that was incredible, is I played him the Jeff Beck album, There and Back. It was him and is that Jan Hammer? What an amazing album that was. And it sounded great on the stereo. So, yes, in the long way around it, I was always an odd duck when it came to music, sports, and politics in school.
Zappa? Did you listen to Frank Zappa?
I've never been a big Frank Zappa fan. I listen more to it now than I did then. I find his lyrics to be so, I don't know.
They're juvenile.
Are you moving away from playing like classical music then, Doug, over to Jimi Hendrix?
I stopped reading. I mean, I knew how to read music amazingly well. A sight reading, a classical guitar piece, all the positions. I completely stopped doing that and started listening to Jimi Hendrix. But then I also listened to like John Fahey's acoustic. I was a big Mike Bloomfield fan at the time and listened. My brother-in-law had the Bloomfield, what's that? Electric Live Adventures of Bloomfield and Al Cooper. It's a live double album concert of them in San Francisco. And that also has Carlos Santana on it. And even at that point,
do you like the way Santana plays guitar?
I did in 1969. I did. I don't think he ever got any better than that. But that's who he is. He's another guy that he plays the way he plays, and that's it. You know it's him the second you hear him.
You're right. You're right.
During that seminal moment where your dad erupts because you want to go play stickball. Is that the end of you playing classical and taking lessons?
Yeah, that was pretty well. I didn't have any sheet music because he threw it out. He smashed the stand, and I wanted to rock and roll. You know?
No, I know. I kind of went through. Yeah.
I mean, that was obviously a pretty intense reaction your dad had, but it doesn't sound like, just at least in the moment, you were like, okay, great, I don't have to do this anymore, right? Was that were you like there?
No, I don't know. I'm an inherently lazy person, and I can't get away from that at times. And I was done playing classical music. You know what it is? When they started doing music theory, and the music became mathematics, and they started talking about the mathematics of music and the key changes and the scales, and how many flats is equivalent to how many sharps. It was like trying to teach me algebra. It just didn't come natural to me.
Yeah.
So I know nothing of music theory, though I've played the guitar now for 46 years. You know, I don't understand music theory. It's like talking gibberish to me. But yeah, I stopped playing the classical. Every once in a while I'd bring it out and play, but you know, if you're not keeping up on your skills with that, that's going to erode pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I still have that guitar. I let my kids play it. You know, we put nice strings on it. And looking back as a dad, I can't blame him too terribly much. You know, we were broke all the time. He had amazing hopes for me to be this musician. When I was 17 and a half, my senior year, I said, Dad, after high school, I want to join a rock band. I want to be a musician. And he said, that's fine, but I had to move out within 6 months because he wasn't going to let me live in the basement as I have a failed career. And then the real jab was, and if that's the reason why you don't do it, you didn't have what it was going to take anyway.
Wow.
And I was like, fuck, he was right.
That's not a bad dad lesson, that one.
No, that was like an enema of lessons.
Yeah. Wow.
So
that explains your the Rolling Stones to me.
Yeah, I'm a quirky fella. I do have a problem that things that become popular, I immedially discount because simple people understand it. That makes no sense to me.
There is a snobbery to all. Like we're all alternative, whether or not the capital A radio genre alternative, but I think all of us and our friends are definitely of all non-mainstream taste, almost because they are mainstream, and we get very upset when things we like go mainstream.
Sure. Well, the first time I heard a Beatles song on a commercial, what was all of our first thoughts? They don't have enough money. When Dylan started, giving away his songs, and then Townsend wraps it up, he's like, these are my fucking songs. I'll do what I want with them. Who are you to tell me what to do? Yeah. And then you have to be like,
got with the Beatles. I felt more of who owns that catalog that they like, because I never thought, when was it Revolution, the Nike commercial? Is that the very first one? I was like,
it got yanked pretty quickly too.
Well, they must have paid a lot of money for it, right, John?
But to Michael Jackson, right? At the time, John?
I don't know.
I don't think that was under the Beatles' control. I don't think Paul McCartney was like, yeah, go ahead. But use my friend John Lennon's song.
Oh, I would tend to think the money, that was a huge payout, like $1 million.
Once again, we're different time frame. So, because the Beatles, by the way, you're also right. The Nike commercial was a big deal, but Beatles. If you ever go on YouTube, and I think they're still showing the Beatles music is all over WKRP in Cincinnati. Like
really,
like there was. No one thought twice about putting it in those kind of contexts. There's a movie from the movie Shampoo with
sure, yeah.
Sgt. Pepper is like most of the soundtrack. Like they're constantly he's hanging out with this swinging party, and they're
Warren Beatty,
Sgt. Pepper, Warren Beatty, yeah. They're playing Sgt. Pepper, and you're just thinking like, oh my god, how the heck did they clear that? But in retrospect, no one thought it was like, great, here's another.
But John, when I was student teaching,
big deal.
When I was student teaching, I was working at the Gap at night on Route 17 in Paramus. And, there's that Gap culture. So there's like a catalog of songs that they play in the Gap. Yeah. When REM came on in the Gap, would they have had to give their specific permission to be part of the Gap Music soundtrack to your shopping life?